If you haven't already heard of IL or seen it pop up in your YouTube recs, let me break it down for you. It's a first-person adventure shooter with horror vibes, taking inspiration from heavy hitters like Resident Evil and Outlast. Sounds pretty dope, right? The game's got a straightforward story where you're out there blasting through freaky monsters and zombies. When they first dropped footage of this game, it straight up blew everyone's minds with how realistic the graphics are. There have been tons of trailers, and yeah, it's even got a Steam page, but here's the catch. No one's got a clue when it's actually dropping. What we do know, though, the graphics are insane, and the creepy atmosphere is next level, all thanks to Unreal Engine 5. Hopefully, we'll get a crack at a beta version soon. Fingers crossed for the devs, and let's stay tuned for more updates. Polish devs Techland just dropped the announcement for a new chapter in the Dying Light series, and it's not a sequel, but a fresh standalone adventure called Dying Light: The Beast. This time, the action's set in a detailed countryside environment. You'll play as the OG protagonist from the first game, who's finally free after years of brutal experiments. Techland is clearly shaking things up again, and the big twist this time? Superhuman abilities. Fun fact, this game actually started as an idea for a DLC for Dying Light 2, but ended up becoming a full-on standalone title. No release date yet, but it's already got a coming soon page on Steam. And, well, we all know soon can mean anything. Platforms? Still a mystery. If you're into action-packed survival horror games, then you gotta check out the sci-fi thriller Retrieval. It's the debut game from 333 Studios, running on Unreal Engine 5, so you know the graphics are going to be top-notch. The devs are promising a deep storyline with plenty of twists and turns exploring themes like friendship, love, loyalty, and fear. You play as Hanna Lasha, the commander of a research team on the planet Reincarnation. After getting trapped in a mysterious retro-futuristic underground base, Hanna uncovers some seriously chilling secrets in this deserted world. Survival is key, and you're going to face tough challenges and terrifying enemies at every turn. The devs at Supermassive Games just dropped the trailer for their upcoming cinematic horror, Directive 8020. The plot? Earth is done for. Humanity's got to find a new home. So they set off for the planet Tau Ceti, but things go south fast. The ship crashes, and the crew soon discovers they're not alone on this planet. The local enemy has the freaky ability to mimic humans, so now the crew can't trust anyone, not even their friends, and maybe not even themselves. Word on the street is Directive 820 is trying to shake off the typical interactive movie vibes. Looks like the devs are leaning more into horror action territory, with new mechanics like stealth, combat, and using different weapons, even stuff you find lying around. But don't worry, the core feature of the Dark Pictures series is still there, a non-linear story campaign. It's set to drop on all major platforms in 2025. John Carpenter, the legendary director behind classics like Halloween and Escape from New York, is making his mark in the gaming world with the co-op shooter Toxic Commando. Developed by Saber Interactive, the team behind World War Z, this game takes place in a near future where a failed energy experiment unleashes a nasty plague, turning people into horrifying zombies. You and your squad of up to 4 players will step into the shoes of the Toxic Commandos, taking on the mission to save the world. Expect different character classes, vehicles, and a wide range of guns to tear through the undead hordes. Oh, and there are katanas too. The game's vibe is heavily inspired by 80s action comedies and horror flicks, especially Carpenter's work. Toxic Commando is set to drop in late 2024 on PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series. Into the Dead: Our Darkest Days is the next big thing from Pickpock, and it's bringing the zombie franchise to PC in 2024 with an early access release. Set in Texas in the 1980s, the town of Walton City is swarming with zombies, and the only way to survive is to escape. This one's a side-scrolling survival game, kind of like This War of Mine or Fallout Shelter. You'll be leading a group of desperate survivors from shelter to shelter, scavenging supplies, crafting weapons, and constantly fighting off the undead while trying to keep everyone alive. But it's not just about beating zombies. You also have to manage both physical and mental needs of your group. One wrong move, and you're done for. Death is permanent, meaning you start over if you fail. It's tough, it's brutal, and it's definitely not for the faint of heart. For a side-scroller, it looks pretty stunning too. Early access hits Steam sometime in 2024, and while it'll eventually land on other platforms, we're still waiting for details on which ones. At Gamescom, the devs from Ocean Drive are telling gamers to grab their pitchforks and dive into the medieval world of God Save Birmingham to survive a zombie apocalypse like no other. We're talking open-world mayhem with some seriously polished mechanics to help you fend off the undead. The debut trailer shows off these and a ton of other features. Strangely enough, God Save Birmingham is set in 10th century Birmingham, where you step into the shoes of a humble peasant forced to defend against zombies. Instead of dealing with the Black Plague, this medieval world is getting wrecked by a zombie uprising that could pose an even bigger threat to humanity. You'll be relying on your trusty pitchfork, sturdy armor, and whatever tools you can find from that era. With the game's realistic physics engine, expect a ton of slapstick moments throughout your survival journey, whether it's kicking zombies down a staircase or watching them trip over obstacles. God Save Birmingham is slated for an early access release on Steam, though there's no official launch date just yet. Cube Studios just dropped a survival action RPG called Dread Dawn for PC. This single-player open-world sandbox has you exploring a city that's been locked down due to a mysterious virus outbreak. You'll be fighting off hordes of zombies in the streets of a massive urban sprawl, hitting up hospitals, subways, schools, prisons, and more. Your mission? Defend your camp from bloodthirsty creatures, gather resources, level up your base, grow crops, raise livestock to keep food on the table, and trade with surviving NPCs. The game gives off serious Project Zomboid vibes. The sequel No More Room in Hell 2 is rolling into early access soon. This co-op zombie horror game lets up to 16 players team up in one session. Players will be thrown into a world drowning in a relentless zombie apocalypse, full of desperation and chaos. You'll start scattered across a huge map, trying to survive, scavenge for supplies, and complete different objectives. But there's a catch. There's no respawning. One life, that's it. If you die, all your progress is gone for good. No More Room in Hell 2 is dropping on Steam around Halloween, so expect early access to hit late October or early November. From the very first seconds of the State of Decay 3 trailer that dropped during the Xbox Games Showcase, it was clear this game is taking things to a whole new level compared to its predecessors. According to a recent post on Xbox Wire, the entire trailer was built using the in-game engine, meaning it wasn't pre-rendered or anything like that. The world is darker, more detailed, and perfect for teaming up with your buddies in co-op mode. Of course, permadeath is still very much a thing, and Undead Labs isn't planning to take that away. Surviving the apocalypse is still going to be a brutal grind. State of Decay 3 is set a few years after the zombie apocalypse, and they've made tons of gameplay upgrades, better combat, smoother animations, and a wider variety of enemies to fight off. Sadly, there's no solid release date yet, but it's safe to expect it either late 2024 or maybe early 2025. It's coming to PC and Xbox and will be available on Game Pass right at launch. Atomfall drops you into a gritty, post-apocalyptic version of London, where survival is your #1 goal. You'll be exploring the ruins, scavenging for resources, and fighting off mutants and other survivors. You play as a former scientist on a mission to find his family and uncover the mystery behind the disaster. The gameplay mixes action and survival elements. You'll need to gather resources, craft weapons and gear, and build shelters to stay safe from the deadly world around you. The crafting system lets you create and upgrade unique items, and there's a variety of weapons to use, from guns to makeshift melee weapons to take down enemies. One of the standout features of Atomfall is its visual style. The devs nailed that 1950s vibe, blending retrofuturism with a dark post-apocalyptic twist. The graphics are seriously detailed, and the sound design keeps the tension high. Atomfall is set to release in March 2025 on PC, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series. Trench Tales is a passion project by Talking Drums, but don't let the name fool you. It's a one-man show led by 3D artist Alexander Ponomaryov, and this guy's no rookie. He's worked on heavy hitters like Call of Duty, Black Ops 3, Path of Exile, and Rise of the Tomb Raider. So yeah, he's got the chops. Currently based in Tokyo, Alexander calls Trench Tales his dream project, his baby, if you will. The game's set in the dark kingdom of Verdun, where two brothers are duking it out for the throne. You're thrown into the chaos as a lone warrior, mysteriously pulled into this war-torn world. Your mission? Figure out why you've been dragged into this mess and find a way back to your own world. Expect to hack, slash, and shoot your way through dangerous areas, facing all kinds of enemies. You'll also be hunting for artifacts that unlock supernatural abilities, like slowing down time, seeing through walls, and healing up fast. Your playstyle is going to depend a lot on which powers you choose. Oh, and the weapon selection? It's stacked. Think pistols, shotguns, sniper rifles, flamethrowers, mortars, and more. Plus, there's a deep weapon customization system for all your modding needs. Trench Tales is being developed on Unreal Engine 5, and while there's no official release date yet, you can already add it to your wishlist on Steam. Keep your eyes on this one. It's going to be wild. Tripwire Interactive finally dropped a gameplay trailer for their co-op action horror game Killing Floor 3, and it's looking pretty sick. They even gave us a rough release window. The trailer showed off some monster battles, but honestly, most of the time was spent on dev interviews. Cool and all, but we'd rather see more gameplay, right? Anyway, the devs confirmed that Killing Floor 3 is dropping early 2025 for PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series. The game is set way in the future, and you'll play as a rebel soldier going up against biochemically engineered monsters created by the Horizon Megacorp. Oh, and it's already up for wishlisting on Steam. Pioner is like a blend of a first-person shooter and a survival sim set in a post-apocalyptic world, giving off serious stalker vibes. It's being developed by a team made up of former devs who worked on Stalker 2 Heart of Chernobyl, Atomic Heart, and Metro Exodus. So yeah, these guys know what they're doing. I don't think they'll disappoint. The game's set in the Soviet Union, which has been cut off from the rest of the world after a huge tech disaster, leaving it in ruins. And of course, you'll be dealing with creepy creatures, mutants, anomalies, and artifacts. Classic stuff, right? Most of the game's content is straight out of the USSR, from the vehicles and weapons to everyday items, with buildings recreated in that authentic Soviet architectural style. You'll have a massive range of firearms to choose from, and each gun can be customized with different attachments that either upgrade or totally change its stats. When you first land on the island, your main goal is to just survive, find any weapon, armor, or gear you can. Survival is key here, as the environment is super hostile, but don't worry, the game doesn't hit you with an overly complicated storyline. Blight Survival is a co-op medieval game where you and 3 other players team up to take down hordes of zombies and bandits, all while trying to find and destroy the source of a deadly plague that's wrecking the land. Set in a forgotten, war-torn country where 2 kingdoms are locked in an endless battle, this plague has taken root in the remains of fallen soldiers, feeding off the bloodshed. It's spreading fast, turning people into monsters. You and your squad are the last hope. It's up to you to head into the unknown and put an end to this unstoppable plague. The game's first gameplay reveal blew people away, especially with its graphics, animations, and overall atmosphere. Some players even compared it to a medieval The Last of Us, and you can definitely see those vibes. Silent Hill 2 is the reimagining of the iconic Japanese horror game, now running on Unreal Engine 5. The new dev team is working hard to stay true to the original story and atmosphere, while adding some tweaks and improvements. One big change is the upgraded combat system, which should feel a lot smoother. Also, in case you didn't know, Masahiro Ito, the designer behind the original Silent Hill games, is involved in the remake. That's a huge deal for the fans. The new trailer for the Silent Hill 2 remake looks insanely atmospheric and cool. It's a remake of the legendary 2001 trailer, with some scenes being almost frame-for-frame recreations of the original. Plus, there's a fresh take on the classic Promise track by Akira Yamaoka playing in the background. The whole thing screams nostalgia, and it's definitely going to hit the right spot for longtime fans. From the gameplay footage, it's clear the eerie atmosphere is still very much intact. The graphics remind me a lot of the Resident Evil 4 remake. Super clean visuals, but I had no complaints about optimization with Resident Evil 4. Hopefully Silent Hill 2 doesn't suffer from the usual Unreal Engine 5 optimization issues. The game looks stunning, no doubt about that, but let's just hope it runs smoothly. Fingers crossed it's not one of those cases where it looks great but runs horribly. The devs over at Good Fun Corporation just dropped the announcement for their new project, Hunger. And it's like they mashed together Hunt and Outlast. The game throws you into an alternate Europe during the Napoleonic era, but things are way more messed up than usual. It's a PvP and PvE action game at its core, but with some wild twists. They've packed in horror vibes, slasher mechanics, and even sprinkled in some RPG elements. The world's been hit with a brutal plague that's wiped out most of humanity. The survivors have holed up in a chateau, but they can't hide forever. You'll be heading out on raids, taking down enemies with a sick arsenal. Your loadout? Pistols, muskets, grenades, axes, maces, you name it, it's in there. And that's just a taste. The devs also promise a deep leveling system with around 100 different skills to master. Hunger is set to drop on PC through Steam and Epic Games, but it'll be in early access for a bit. No word yet on the full release, so stay tuned. ND Studios, led by none other than the legendary Blizzard artist Way1, just dropped the announcement for their first game, Astropulse Reincarnation. This one's shaping up to be a single-player, third-person shooter with some RPG elements, all set in a sci-fi universe. And get this, it's just the start of a whole new universe that's going to expand into comics, short films, and visual novels. The game's being built on Unreal Engine 5, but don't hold your breath for a release date. It's still under wraps. Astropulse Reincarnation is going to be this massive saga about how some cosmic energy called the Astropulse hit Earth with a meteor over 250 million years ago. This energy basically shook up the planet's biology and evolution, causing a global catastrophe that flipped human civilization upside down. Now, we've got new creatures and entire civilizations fighting for survival. And right in the middle of all this chaos, a young guy and his crew are setting out on an epic journey to take on their fate.